Has begun, no one is allowed to leave or enter the room. There will be no photographs, tape recordings, or videos taken during the debate. Please turn off any phones, beepers, pagers, and watch alarms now. Do not applaud until the debate is completely finished. It will take about 1 hour. If you cannot stay for the whole debate, please leave now before we begin. Thank you.
Ladies, are you ready?
You may begin.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are debating the topic, anarchism is a valuable political ideology. The proposition would first like to define some of the definitions that in this topic in order to guide this argument. Firstly, we'd like to define anarchism. Anarchism is a political ideology that argues for the dissolution of government and therefore promote freedom of humans and equality of opportunity. It does not necessarily mean it is the best. Valuable is it has worth and makes contributions, but this does not imply it is the best. Ideology is an organized system of belief, and again, this is hypothetical. So keep in mind that we are arguing that anarchism is a valuable ideology, not that it should be implemented and not about its practicality, but rather about its contributions. Now we would like to begin and introduce our contentions. Our first contention will be that anarchism is a valuable political ideology because it encourages equality of opportunity. Our second contention is that anarchism is a valuable political ideology. Accepted?
So if something is not realistically applicable and can never be practiced, why is it valuable?
Because it can make contributions and the ideas can contribute to governments and governments can improve with these ideas. And second, governments and people can learn from the ideology of anarchism. First, I would like to introduce our first contention. So anarchism is a valuable political ideology because it encourages equality of opportunity. Let's go to this idea. The government is an elitist body. What this means is not only do they often only represent only a small group of people and not the whole population, as usually anarchism would suggest. People who are the same class as the government usually get more priority. So anarchism's idea of equality of opportunity, where everyone starts at the same level and works their way up based on their abilities and skills, where everyone has the same chance to fulfill their potential, is valuable. This is valuable because the biggest problem in today's world and the root of poverty, problems such as poverty, is inequality of opportunity. People are born into different classes, and the rich often have more opportunities for education and to fulfill their potential, whereas the poor have less chances to succeed.
Point, madam.
Accepted?
How then is anarchy different from communism?
Anarchy is, let me reiterate. Equality of opportunity is not the same thing as equality of income. It is not the same thing. Equality of opportunity means that people can fulfill their potential and work towards the level of income that they deserve. So, anarchism represents a fresh start where people can start over at the same level. It promotes the freedom for all people to reach one's individual potential. And again, this is not the same thing as communism.
Point, madam.
Rejected. Thank you. Our second contention is that governments and people can learn from the ideology of anarchism. So this is again taking back from our very first contention that anarchism promotes the idea of equality of opportunity. The proposition understands that anarchism is very idealistic. We understand that it is impractical to implement. However, this does not mean that it is not valuable. With the ideology of anarchism out in the marketplace of ideas, both governments and people can obtain valuable knowledge and learn to make suitable changes in the pursuit of freedom and equality of opportunity. The idea of anarchism promotes freedom.
Madam.
Accepted.
Would you agree that a political ideology is something that you stand for and something that you believe in?
We have already defined ideology, so we are hoping that you have already noted that down. So, the idea of anarchism promotes freedom and the merging of social classes in the process of dissolution of government. This anarchism is a voice of criticism that keeps the government constantly on their toes, a source of opposition that allows governments to reflect upon their actions. When a government does not have an opposition, when a government does not have criticism, they are unable to reflect upon their wrongdoings. They're unable to reflect upon their actions. For governments, this means that they can understand that they're flawed, and if they do not successfully represent the idea of equality of opportunity to their people, it can lead to downfalls, such as with the governments in the Arab Spring. This means that governments will try their best to be more open to the people's concerns and try to represent all social classes. For people, this idea means that they can understand the idea of equality of opportunity. They will strive for a better society. For people who live under oppressive governments, for example, they can come to understand that their voices need to be addressed, and they can push their governments to provide more freedom. Accepted.
So if no one stands for this political ideology, but governments can take from it, then how are governments going to take from it if no one stands for this political ideology?
I find this, I'm sorry, but this question is really confusing, and I don't believe that it is relevant to this topic. Thank you.
Request for follow-up?
Rejected. A second part as to how anarchism is a valuable ideology is because it does not only mean that we're working for the good aspects. Governments can also learn from the flaws and weaknesses from the ideology of anarchism, such as the idea of how anarchism can cause chaos. When they learn from both the good sides of anarchism and the bad sides, they can not only learn from their mistakes, they can also learn from achievements and successes. For example, take the idea of chaos. Many would argue that anarchism would cause chaos. We are not saying that it would not cause chaos, but it would cause chaos in its implementation. But the fact is, it is a valuable idea because governments can take from this idea of chaos and they can learn from the bad aspects as well as the good aspects and improve their governments to prevent chaos, to prevent crimes, and at the same time increase freedoms and represent their people in a better way. That is why this House continues to believe that anarchism is a very, although it might not be practical, although it might not be possible to implement, it is still a valuable political ideology. Thank you very much.
Judges, the time was 6:03. The next team has 1 minute to approach the podium.
Because if something makes contributions, then it should be something that can actually yeah, that's what idealistic, non-valuable. An idealistic doctrine is not valuable. It's invaluable.
45 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. There is a reason that there are no governments that are anarchists in today's world. There is a reason that anarchy doesn't exist, and it's because the merits of government supersede that of anarchism. I would like to begin by going over the definitions brought up by the proposition. They said first that anarchism is this dissolution of government and should provide freedom of equality and opportunity. But they agreed that every person is born into different social classes and that there will always be a different strata of people in society. So then, how do you propose that we change where you are born? You can't change what you were born into. So how does anarchism change what social class you were born into and make equality of opportunity? That does not make sense. For that reason, we take out the sentence, freedom of equality of opportunity. Instead, anarchism is this theory of the dissolution of government, that because they believe that government is unnecessary. Let's go on to the definition of valuable. They said that we understand as the proposition that anarchy isn't practical and can never be implemented. Then, ladies and gentlemen, why is it valuable? If you think that is something that is idealistic, not valuable, if you value something, you would like to use it. You see merits in it, and you want to. Yes, go ahead.
But isn't this question actually regarding political ideology
Yes,
and
thank
not
you.
political practicality?
Thank you. Political ideology. Political ideologies are something you stand for.